live streaming. And now I'm gonna hit the record button. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Daily Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Fernando Lopez, and today I have the privilege and honor of interviewing Sarah Chapman Bacerra. She's the founder of Trailblazing in Color, a people development firm focused on supporting those paving the way and lifting while they climb. Trailblazing Color is guided by a mission to help historically underrepresented leaders thrive in and change the systems that were not designed by us or for us. Sarah is an international speaker, award-winning inclusion advocate, and community organizer. She loves creating and being a part of intentional communities, spontaneity, and going on adventures with her two daughters and her partner, Holly. Sarah, welcome.
Thank you so much. I was working over here on trying to get this shared on LinkedIn. I think I figured it out. So I'm going to hit post. And we did it. Okay.
Drum roll,
Hi,
drum roll.
Fernando.
Woohoo! Yes! We
Join
did
the
it.
conversation. So happy to be here with you, having this conversation today on this day of the new moon.
Right. So
Right
the
now.
new moon, start tracking the new moon. The new moon started yesterday, 11:40 p.m. Pacific time.
So we're here with a fresh beginning, having a beautiful conversation. Thank you for having me.
Yes, you're very welcome. I'd love to start with, the word inclusion it's something that's been brought to surface in the past few years, at least in my awareness. I'd like for you to touch upon that word a little bit. What is inclusion to you? And then we're going to go to say why you do what you do and what got you started. But let's start with the word inclusion. What does inclusion mean for in the context that you help organizations with?
Yes. So it's really about this idea that everyone has an opportunity to use their voice, to leverage their voice, and to feel safe sharing their perspectives and bringing their unique experiences to the table. So it's about carving out space for every voice to be heard and welcomed and invited. And so there are so many of us historically that have not been invited to the conversation, and therefore the systems that have been designed in corporate America and as the basis of a lot of organizations has left out a lot of really important perspectives, and we have seen, continue to see the results of that. It's not an environment where all can thrive. It's not an environment where all can sustain the work needed to continue. It's beating us down. It's putting us into burnout and overwhelm. And I really want to do something to change that on a systems level and also on an individual level. How do we ourselves come into a space and activate that inclusion? What does that look like? And how do organizations create the culture transformation needed to invite all perspectives in with intention?
So many places we could go with this. One, I guess, could be with the leadership, with the leaders of an organization. What is one way they can, or we can, start having a new relationship to what inclusion is in where humanity is heading towards, which I believe it's more prosperity, more freedom. What is something that leaders can do to start the change from within to then bring the change about in the organization they lead?
Well, I think you've really hit on that. Is it does start from within. And what I see often, especially in diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging work, is organizations are skipping over that part and assuming everyone's already on the same page around how to be inclusive, or what experiences have shaped you in your life that have enhanced that for certain communities around how you invite and how you include, and there's barriers to other communities and there's bias there. And so it's also about, it really is about starting going inward, and that's a lot of the way I frame it within organizations and organizational leaders. Our programs, our curriculums have to start with a lot of self-reflection, a great deal of self-revelation work before you go and start changing all of the systems, because still, if we're not doing that inner work, we're going to come at it wrong. We're going to replicate the systems, the oppressive systems that have been in existence, because we haven't done that work. And so I like to work with organizations to cultivate some really intentional programming around the self-revelatory work. And a lot of that happens also in one-on-one coaching. I work with leaders to unpack that and to work through kind of, how do I become the inclusive leader that I want to be? How do I learn about the experience of others that I haven't been exposed to, especially those that are on my team, that are in my organization, so I can learn how to support them better and to strengthen our communication, because I have that deep understanding, that deep empathy and curiosity for people around me. So it really has to start. It's an inside job before it can be an outside job.
I love that. As you were sharing there, I couldn't help to think about maybe business owners, leaders watching and tuning in and thinking about paying for the payroll or profits. In your experience, what has this new awareness of inclusion done for businesses at the bottom line level, at the profits level?
Well, it really, I mean, there's study after study, case study after case study around how creating more inclusive organizations impacts positively the bottom line. The ROI is there, the case is there, and what is underpinning all of that, why do more diverse, inclusive organizations have greater profits, and why are they more innovative? Well, it's because when you have inclusion, you have heightened levels of trust. And when you have more trust, things get done faster. They get done faster. There's the psychological safety to bring new ideas, to mess up, because innovation requires making mistakes. And so all of those layers of, I feel safe here, I trust my leaders, I trust that they have my best interest at heart, that makes employees more engaged. It makes them want to do more for the organization, not in a capacity like give all of yourself to this organization, but more like I will share my ideas. I feel confident that they have a place here and that they will be leveraged if the connection is there. So that trust piece, increasing the speed and lowering costs overall, connected to, I mean, that's what gets us to that greater bottom line. But we don't think about it like that always. It's like, this takes time, this is going to take away, working on this will take away from, but actually it's only additive when you invest in creating a more inclusive workplace and invest in that culture transformation, but especially with creating inclusive leaders and giving real intention behind how you're supporting your historically excluded leaders, your historically underrepresented employees. That really shows like we mean what we say. We're walking the talk. We know that this environment was not created by you, for you, and yet we want to invest in making that look differently going forward. We need your ideas and we need you at this table, because we know everything gets better when you're here.
I'm loving this topic so much. Regarding the the team members. So they may, we just talked about the leaders, the leadership. Regarding team members that might be listening, watching this, something they feeling like, wow, I need that. I need to feel psychologically safe. I need to feel like I trust my team members, my leaders. What is something that they can start doing or being so that they start heading in that direction, even though they might not be 100%, they may not feel 100% psychologically safe?
Mm. Yes, there's some balance there. And when we work with organizations, we start with the leaders with a keen eye on helping to create that environment for individual contributors. What I really work on supporting them with is finding their voice, being able to talk about their experiences, their lived experiences, figure out what that story is for them, and empower them to bring more of themselves into their work environment. So with a really keen eye on safety and on the environment that you're in right now, but helping these individuals to come in with a perspective around with a clearer connection to themselves, to their story, to why their experiences are valid and need to be shared. And so when I work taking it back a step, that was really my experience. Is I really had to learn how to leverage my voice, and I had to have a really strong motivation behind it. So it's also about exploring, why are you motivated to share, to amplify your own experiences, or to amplify the experiences of your community, to make things better, to improve things. So what is that motivation? And for me, it took a really long time for me to explore and discover my voice. And I'm mixed race. My dad is Black, my mom is white, and I always felt kind of like this in between. I existed in this in between space. I didn't see anyone hear stories that looked like mine. I didn't identify wholly with either race, and yet you're always trying to be. People are always trying to identify you for you, and so it took a while for me to find it again. All through school, I was painfully shy, painfully quiet, because I didn't see anyone like me using their voice. And so I just kind of sunk back and faded into the background. It started to change in high school when I joined the dance team, and I had, for the first time, a really strong community around me. My teammates, it was being a part of something bigger than myself that really started to help me get out of my own shell, start to see where my voice can be a helpful insertion in any environment, because my experience is unique and because I have important things to share around that experience and perspective, around being this bridge and making connections that maybe other people don't see, and not thinking in the binary, because my existence does not exist in one or the other. It's both. It's multiple. It's multifaceted. It's multiple colors, and that's where the company name came from too. Trailblazing in color, moving from this idea of thinking in black and white, literally, figuratively, into this technicolor. And so that's why the basis of a lot of my work is founded in community building, intentional community building. So I think it's also really important for individuals in organizations to find community. And that shows up in a multitude of ways. It shows up in employee resource groups, which I love. And a friend of mine, Lola Adeyemo, does incredible work with ERG leaders to help them create that intentional community, outcomes-driven community, and also how we find that for ourselves. We need to create those relationships. It's more difficult now because we're in these hybrid and remote work environments, but there are ways that we can seek out that support and that kind of that knowledge that I'm not in this alone. I don't have to figure this out by myself. I'm going to find the people. I'm going to find my people. And there's ways to do that inside of your organization and also outside. LinkedIn is such a great resource for connecting with others that are in similar roles to you or just have in similar sectors, and starting to reach out and say, hey, is this hard for you? What have you done? What are you doing over there? And that's also the purpose of the podcast. I started the Trailblazing in Color podcast the last year to really amplify what's working in different sectors and creating more inclusion, more equity within organizations and within entire industries. How do we do it, and how can we learn from what others are doing, not keep that information to ourselves, but amplify what's working?
Wonderful. I love this so much. Couple ways we could go here. One is a little more into your do what you do, and what was the turning point professionally? Because you mentioned a little bit about you being in school and not finding others that were like you and who were using their voice. Maybe a little bit more into in your, what was the turning point that you realized, you know what, I need to become this person who embodies her voice and also helps others to find their voice? What was the turning point for you? What was happening?
Probably one led to another, but it started with in 2016, the election happened, and there was a lot of outrage, of course. And I was feeling really defeated around, as a woman, as a mother raising 2 daughters, just really scared for the future and what that meant for us. And so turning towards community, turning towards action, because when I feel angry and enraged, I need to channel it. I mean, so we need to find a productive and healthy channel for it. So my channel was joining the Women's March San Diego team, community organizing team. And I was on the board for 5 years. And over the course of that 5 years, it really transformed me in terms of finding my voice, being able to speak truth to power within San Diego government, with elected officials, with coalition building within the San Diego community, and just really finding this outlet for me that was positive, that felt like I was making change. Change takes a long time, but having impact and helping people to connect to efforts that they care about. And so that started to get me more strengthened in my core beliefs, and what compelled me to speak my mind is really wanting to make a better world for my daughters, for the people that come after me, for the next generations. And so that was happening, that was happening behind the scenes, not at work, but it certainly was like a second job. As community organizers know, grassroots leaders know. And at that time, I transitioned into a company that had some things going on that were a little, well, we shall say, misogynistic, kind of patriarchal. It was a smaller company, where you could just kind of feel that women were there to kind of be to take on all of that administrative labor. I mean, the culture was just not designed for or by women. So here I am coming into this space and coming in as an activist and an advocate. And I started to build the trust with the leadership there to say some things with truth and to say that, like, this environment is not okay. This is not a place for all to thrive. So I would have the ear of our CEO, and I would counsel him and coach him and tell him, like, this is don't do it this way. This is how you can get more people to speak up. This is how we can create an environment where this is no longer the case. Because I know that's not what you want for your organization, but we're a product of our systems until we unlearn them. And so in that unofficial capacity of coaching and counseling our senior leaders there, it made a lot of sense for me to kind of pursue that. I was looking for how can I most contribute to this world? And it really became, well, I can help leaders see where their challenges are in creating that more intentional culture where innovation can happen, where high trust can happen, and where effective communication and discourse even is held and wanted and asked for. And so that's how kind of that intersection happened. And that's how I started to work more in the diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting and advocacy space within organizations, was because I saw the transformation start to happen within that organization. And it was good. And it wasn't all fixed, but it certainly felt different.
Wonderful. Next, I'm thinking here, if you probably share a couple of stories from success stories, people you've helped in the past. What was it before? What was it after?
Think of what I want to share here.
And this could be going towards maybe a follow-up question. Who are the people you love working with? Who are your ideal clients? So share from that perspective, someone that you loved helping, they caused transformation, they took on the coaching. What was it before and what happened? What did they cause in their organization with your help?
Great question. And I'll answer that follow-up question too. But one is coming to mind, and working with a client last year. It was a nonprofit organization that was focused on supporting different media ventures, accelerating media ventures that were focused on social impact. And so they had a really important job to focus, especially on as we're coming through the racial reckoning of 2020, to really put investment of time, of money, of resources into focusing on what it looks like to create a truly anti-racist organization. And they brought me in to lead a curriculum. So I developed a 4-part curriculum for them around those pieces that we talked about going inward, about uncovering some of those key experiences for you, for your journey, and how can you strengthen your voice there? How can we work on, did a section around unconscious bias, but really from the lens of, what's going on in the brain, and how can we really slow down and start to change our mindsets and our behaviors. And so it's about this really focused also on habit formation, and how do we kind of adjust or change how we show up to these conversations, these interactions, and how can we learn more about our natural communication styles and preferences and learn to adapt there. So we did this 6-month series, and then I worked with their senior leaders on coaching. So coaching into becoming more inclusive leaders, talked about a lot about impact and influence and how you can leverage that in positive ways. And so over the course of the 6 months, you could really hear in the sessions how these leaders were showing up differently for their team, showing up differently for interactions, and the same thing with individual contributors, and learning how what they bring and how what they bring into spaces they can learn to adapt. I was recording an episode of season 2 for the podcast a couple weeks ago, and my guest Nate Shalev was talking about how 100% authenticity is not the goal, because really what we're doing is we're tailoring our message, we're tailoring our communication to our audience, whether it's a one-on-one conversation or speaking to many. It's about how am I going to influence to help move towards the change we are looking to create. Well, it does require some level of adaptation and knowing who you're talking to, what they care about, what they're motivated by. So it was really positive to see how these conversations were changing, how they were just looking at things through a different lens, because it really does start with mindset, and what are the mindsets that you need to shed that were unlearned that have been impacting your ability to break through in communication. And so the types of clients that I really love to work with are those that are already bought into, we know that this is important, this is a value of ours, we just don't know exactly how to move through this idea of going inward first and expanding outward into culture transformations. What does that look like? We care about it, we know that the ROI is there, we know that this is morally the right thing to do, is to move towards inclusion, anti-racism, and mitigating bias. And we just need some help in how do we execute that, and what's the strategy, and let's go. Let's not wait any longer. We've waited hundreds of years. Let's get going.
I love that. So for those of you listening, watching, if that's you, there's a gift at the end of this episode, so stay tuned. Let's see here. So we covered psychological safety, trust, inclusion, finding the voice. You shared about your why, your ideal client. You shared some stories, some success stories. What is something that leaders watching and listening can start, something simple in the realm of habit formation that you touched on, being a habit formation fan that I am? What is something that leaders can do in the realm of habit formation to then include inclusion in their way of being, in their communications, and when it comes to forming new habits?
I believe one really important thing leaders can do, if they're not already, is having regular conversations, scheduled conversations with their team members, one-on-one. We call them one-on-ones, but everyone's version of one-on-ones look differently. And when I say connect with your team members on a one-on-one basis, on a consistent basis too, it's not a task-driven conversation. It's about asking those deeper questions, curious questions about their experiences, about what they want to do in this world, what excites them, what are they passionate about, to your question in preparing for this podcast. What do you want to work on? How can I help develop you? And even, those questions about personal life. We pretend that we don't have these lives outside of work, but the more you can connect to your people, their experiences, their specific challenges now, and really where they want to go and how you can support them, that's what inclusion looks like. It looks like, how can I learn more about you to create an environment where you can be successful and thrive. And so that would be habit number one, is start getting those regular conversations scheduled. And if you're already having them, what might it look like to layer this new lens on? The purpose of that conversation is, purpose here is to find out how I can better support you and better advocate for the environment that is needed for this team to thrive, to be successful.
I love that. And coming from the leader, I bet the leader can find so much into having those conversations, those curiosity-driven conversations of how I better support you. And I also, in the realm of filling the psychological safety tank, or even the kindness tank that we all have, or the appreciation tank, that the leader filling that tank together with each team member, and the team member being on the receiving end, because usually the team member might see themselves, I get paid to come here and give of myself. And in the work I do a little bit, I help people get in touch with their life purpose, and then bring their life purpose to their business or job or role, and align or have as much overlap as possible. So as they're doing their work, their daily work, they're also fulfilling, they're living their life purpose. And I bet leaders, by having this scheduled regular conversations with each team member, can find out what the life purpose of the team member is, and support, and creating that amazing environment where the team member will want their kids and their grandkids to work there too. And that's something that when I work with leaders and CEOs, I bring to their awareness. Do your employees, would your employees want their kids to work there because they love the environment so much?
That's a good measuring stick for sure. Yes.
Well, Sarah, I think we can start wrapping up here. Maybe if you can share one or two other nuggets that you want to leave the audience with, and then you can share about the gift that you have.
Yeah. I think the last piece of all this that I'd like to share is that there is a tipping point for social change. And research that came out in 2018, researchers studied now I'm losing my words. No, studied what percentage of what is the tipping point to create a movement, to create social change. A catalyst behind their research was the Me Too movement, and for so many decades, hundreds of years, we can keep going there, but especially in the entertainment industry, it was sexual harassment was rampant. It was turn a blind eye. What does it take to make that blind eye turned into action? And the tipping point is 25%. And so we think that to create a movement, to create a change, to create culture transformation, everyone needs to get on board. No, we need 25%, what they call the committed minority, to be advocating for this specific change. So when it comes to efforts of leaders creating these inclusive environments, it's coming together, internal coalition building, so to speak, around issues that you want to change, whether it's parental leave or caretaking policies, or how accommodations are received or advocated for. Getting 25%, talking about it, is what makes that change. So it's starting to create those conversations. It's starting to create the awareness around the issues. So really unpacking within the organization, what are the policies that are not representative of our population? What do we need to change? And getting to that committed minority, that 25% advocacy is what it takes. So it's just about creating the community around it, the care around it, and the advocacy around it that it takes to really make change. So I like that statistic. I don't know if it helps other people, but I do think we think that it has to be so much bigger, but it just starts with these conversations, and then the conversations expand, and the more people are talking about it and bringing it up, we'll raise that flag with senior leaders to say, this, we're not okay with this anymore. Status quo is not acceptable to us, and let's make some changes. And here we all are, and we all have something to say about it. So we need you to listen, and we need you to make some changes.
I love that. I love that statistic too. It makes things easier.
Yeah, it does. I feel like it does.
Yeah.
A little less overwhelming, and then real change. I mean, we've seen the ramifications of the Me Too movement. What's happened there? We need, and both in the entertainment industry and in organizations, we need to do that. We just apply that framework to what it is we're fighting for.
I love that. I love your mission. I love everything you're doing. And one thing I like sharing with people, or one decision, one way I make decisions is this good for children? If this is good for children, it's good for everyone. And I think the work you're doing is so important because it's shaping the future, not only for adults, but also for children.
That is one of our core values, is future generations, is what you're doing, paving the way, lifting while you climb, to make things better for those that are coming after, that will inherit this world that we are either positively or negatively impacting. So let's make it positive. And I forgot to answer your other question about the gift. So the gift is a discovery call. It's really 30 minutes of just pick my brain. Let's talk about what's going on with you, and figure out some next right things to do from there. Whether it's you're a leader within an organization working towards culture transformation, or you're a leader who has been beat down because you're in an environment that's not created for you. And what does it look like to create those sustainment practices to take care of yourself, to find your voice, your influence, and your impact? Whether you're a leader with an official title or a leader in your own capacity, because we all are leading something. So what kind of leader do you want to be, and what resources do you need? Let's talk about it.
Thank you, Sarah. For those of you watching, listening, the link to book a call with Sarah is in the show notes. I'm so happy we did this today.
Me too. That was so fun.
Yeah. Yes. Wishing the best for you. I'm here. Count on me. I'm with you 100%. Love the vision, the mission. However I can help, please let me know. And for those of you watching, listening, maybe replay. Hit the replay, listen to this again. A lot of good stuff to unpack here. Maybe some new terms, such as psychological safety. And the change starts within, allowing the change to happen. And thanks, Sarah. Have a great day.
You too.
Everyone watching, listening, make it a great day. Click on the link below, book a call with Sarah, and just remember to live freely, generate your daily freedom. And I'm Fernando Lopez, your host for the Daily Freedom Podcast. Bye bye.